Have you ever put on a song and without even thinking about it, you just start tapping your foot or nodding your head? Well, that feeling, that pulse that kind of organizes everything and makes you want to move, that's exactly what we're diving into today. It seems simple, but the way musicians write it down, well, it can get surprisingly confusing.
And hey, if you've ever felt that same confusion, you are so not alone. This question came straight from a music theory forum on Reddit, and it just perfectly captures a super common mix-up for music lovers and learners. So what is the deal with these two things?
You know, if you scroll through the comments on that post, you'll find people saying, with total confidence, oh, they're just two different ways to say the same thing. But is that really true? Or is there something deeper, something more interesting going on that could totally change the way you hear music? Let's find out.
All right, so to get to the bottom of this, here's our game plan. We're going to talk about the common question, then we'll break down meter, what you feel, versus time signature, what you see. Then we get to the big one, the 6/8 revelation that makes it all click. After that, we'll see how the rules get bent, and finally, we'll talk about why this whole distinction matters in the first place.
Okay, first up, meter. And let's just forget about sheet music for a minute here. This isn't about reading notes. This is all about what you experience, what you instinctively feel when the music is playing.
So here's the main idea, the big split. Meter is all about the feel. It's that implied pulse, the pattern of strong and weak beats that you hear. The time signature, on the other hand, that's the notation. Those are the written rules for the musician, what you see on the page. Think of it this way. One is the experience, the other's the instruction manual.
So, if we want to get a little technical for a second, meter is just that repeating pattern of stresses. It's a lot like poetry, actually. You know how Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star has that pattern of strong and weak syllables? Music works the exact same way. It's that pulse group you're tapping your foot to without even thinking about it.
So how is that feeling even made? Well, you can imagine music as having these layers of pulses all happening at once. You might have a really fast pulse, a medium one, and a slow one that marks the beginning of each musical sentence. And when all those pulses line up, bam, that's your strong beat, usually beat 1. When only some of them line up, you get a weaker beat. That whole hierarchy of stress, that's meter.
Okay, so if meter is the feeling, how in the world do we write that down for a performer to play? Well, that's where the time signature comes in. This is the part you actually see.
A time signature is basically a recipe. It tells a musician the exact ingredients for one little box of music, which we call a measure. But, and this is a pretty big but, that recipe doesn't always tell you how the final dish is going to taste, or, how it's going to feel.
It's actually pretty straightforward. The top number, that's how many. The bottom number, that's what kind of note we're counting. So 4/4 means 4 quarter notes in a measure. Simple. 3/8 means 3/8 notes. Easy enough, right? But this is right where the confusion starts.
And now we get to the big one, the example that completely shatters that whole they're the same thing myth. I like to call it the 6/8 revelation.
Okay, so here's the puzzle for you. A measure of 3/4 time, you can fit 6 little eighth notes in there. And a measure of 6/8 time, well, it also holds 6/8 notes. So on paper, mathematically, they're identical. They should feel the same, right?
The answer is a huge no. And this right here is the whole secret. Even though they have the same number of notes, it's all about how they're grouped. In 3/4 time, you feel 3 strong beats, like a waltz. 1, 2, 3. But in 6/8, you feel 2 bigger kind of swinging beats. 1 and a, 2 and a. Same number of notes, totally different meter. A completely different feel.
And this is not just some boring theory detail. It's a real tool composers use. Leonard Bernstein was a master at this. In America from West Side Story, he messes with this on purpose. The song's written in 6/8, but he's constantly shifting the accents, so sometimes it feels like 3/4, creating this incredible rhythmic tension. I like to be in America. That is the sound of a genius playing in the gap between what's written and what you feel.
So once you realize there's this little gap between the two, you start hearing it everywhere. It's how musicians keep things from getting stale. And honestly, this is where music gets really cool. It's this distinction that lets musicians use awesome techniques like complex meters and syncopation. These are just ways that they deliberately play against our expectations of the meter, creating some rhythmic drama that really pulls you in.
So what about those really weird-sounding time signatures? The one from the Mission Impossible theme, or that famous jazz tune, Take 5 by Dave Brubeck. I mean, how are you even supposed to feel a pulse in 5?
Well, here's the secret. You don't really feel 5 steady beats. Your brain is smart. It doesn't want to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's clunky. Instead, it automatically groups the beats. You might feel it as a group of 2, then a group of 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's your Mission Impossible rhythm. Or you might feel it the other way around. A group of 3, then 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. That's the cool lopsided groove from Take 5.
All right, another killer tool is something called syncopation. All this really means is that a composer intentionally puts a strong accent where you don't expect it, on a weak beat, or even in the space between the beats. It's basically a rhythmic surprise party.
Check out this example from Schubert. The time signature says the strong beats should land on 1, 2, 1, 2. And on the left, that's exactly what you hear, pretty straightforward. But then, on the right, the music gets sneaky. The accent suddenly lands on a weak beat, and it creates this amazing tension. The sheet music, the time signature, says the beat is here, but the melody makes you feel it over there. That is syncopation in action.
So we've gone through all this. We've untangled the terms, and we've seen them in action. But what's the big takeaway? I mean, why does any of this actually matter?
Okay, let's bring it all together. Meter is the pulse you feel. The time signature is just the written recipe. And as we saw with 3/4 and 6/8, the same recipe can create completely different musical meals. This gap between the rules and the feel isn't a mistake, it's a creative playground for musicians. And the bottom line? Understanding this difference is the key to hearing all the drama and cleverness hiding in your favorite songs. It lets you listen deeper.
And you know, this brings us right back to where we started. A commenter on that original Reddit thread just nailed it perfectly. They said, "The meter is the pulse patterns which are felt. Time signature is a construct which shows the meter in notation. They are not the same thing. It's really that simple."
So maybe the best way to think about it is this. The time signature is the map, but the meter, that's the actual journey. It's all the hills, the curves, the unexpected turns along the way. So now that you know the difference, where are you going to let the music take you next?